The purpose of this video is to go over the instructions for Programming Assignment 5 in CSC 120 and show you a demo of a working program that would meet the requirements for this. So the overview is that you're going to be writing a Java application that uses an array to represent a collection of at least 10 objects. Now these objects are not going to be graphical. They'll be informational objects, such as the student and the book classes from Lab 9. Okay? And then your Programming Assignment 5 needs to provide a user interface that gives the user a way to display information and or statistics about the objects. Okay? So you're going to need to declare and instantiate an array of objects that keeps information about something in the real world. This example video, or the sample that I'm going to show you in this video, uses countries of the world, a country class. But also another example would be books and students from Lab 9. Okay? And then you're going to implement JButtons that will display information about or statistics about the items in the array. Okay? So you want to think of some objects in the real world that have at least 5 properties that could be represented as private data members in a class definition. So the book class, the student class, and the country class from the sample that we're going to have here in the sample video. Okay? So you may not use books or students or countries for your project. You must think up some other class of object to use. Okay? And then you're going to write a Java class definition for the class that you will use for this assignment. The class must have 5 private data members, a constructor method, getter methods for each of the private data items, and a toString. If you want to have setter methods, you can. You don't have to, but you could have that. So for my sample here for Program 5, I have a country class that has 5 private data members, 3 strings, a double, and an integer. Here's the constructor for the country class, and I have setters and getters and a toString. Okay? So that's the idea. You need to have a class definition for the objects that you are going to represent. Okay. Then in the MU frame class, declare an array of your objects and instantiate the array so it contains as many elements as you are going to have. It has to be at least 10. You can have more than 10 if you wanted, but you have to have at least 10 elements in the array. Then when you instantiate the individual objects in the array, you do them one at a time like this. Okay, so in my program, if I go look at the MU frame, here is I am declaring, now notice for the constructor method for the class, I specify this name and then the capital, then a population number, which is a double, and then the area number, which is an integer, and then the last string is the continent. Okay, so that's the order in which I specify things. The name of the country, the name of the capital, the population, which is in millions, and the square kilometers, which would be area, and then the continent that it's on. Okay, so I have 10 elements in my array, and so I'm initializing, or I should say instantiating position 0 through 9 in my array. If I had 15 things, it would go from 0 to 14. Okay. Then the program has to have at least 5 different buttons in the interface. Must have a J button that when clicked will display every element in the array on a separate line in the text area. And you must use a loop to do this. Okay? Then you need to have at least 2 buttons that when clicked will use a loop to calculate either the sum, the average, the minimum, or the maximum of a numeric data member of each element of the array. So you could have a button that would find the average population of all the country objects. Another might find the minimum area of any country. And the information needs to be displayed in the text area of the interface. And then the program must have at least 2 buttons that when clicked will use a loop to test each element of the array for some property of a string data member using the .equals method. And you can either count the number of elements that have that property or display them in the text area. Okay? Right, so that's so let's take a look at my version when I run my program. Okay, I have countries in my array, and notice in my interface I have 5 buttons. There's a display all countries button, and if I click that, in the text area, I have all the countries displayed. And this is the result of the toString method for the countries. Okay. I also have a button that will show only countries from Asia. So this would be an example of a button that is testing a string property of each country, but only displaying the ones where the continent value equals Asia. Okay, so if you look at this list of 10 countries, 3 of them come from Asia: Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Mongolia. Okay, I have another button that only prints or displays the countries that are in North America. In the original list, there are only 2 countries from North America: Belize and Canada. Okay, and then I have 2 buttons. Here's a button that will show the average population. So the average population of all the countries is 15.6797 million. And the total land area for all the countries is, I think that's 15,064,888 square kilometers. Okay? So each of these things, you need to use a loop to generate them. Okay? And you can have other features, you can have other kinds of things in your interface, but this is the minimum required for Program 5. An array of at least 10 objects and 5 buttons that, 1 button displays all the countries, 2 separate buttons which will display or will test a string property of one of the properties of each object in the array using .equals, and then 2 buttons that will either calculate sum, average, minimum, or maximum of one of the numeric data member of each element of the array. Good luck, and as always, if you have questions, contact your instructor.